Cat-F. Welcome to World War II Live. I'm John C. McManus, alongside, as always, my buddy Kevin Hymel. How are you, Kevin?
John, I'm doing great tonight. I am the Mookie Betts to your Freddie Freeman.
Oh, the idea I could be a Dodger. Oh, my goodness. Although, Freddie Freeman is a fine ball player, and so is Mookie
Yep,
Betts.
yep. I think
Yeah.
he's a clone of our friend Matt Brogy, by the way.
Yeah, well, Matt Broggie would
Freddie
love
Freeman.
that, to hear that.
Yeah, I've
Matt
told him
Broggie,
that before.
he's a Dodgers fan. We try not to hold that against him. I see it as a kind of a character flaw on some level, but he is a
Okay.
Dodgers fan. But we have alongside, of course, always our favorite Red Sox fan, misguided though he is, our brilliant producer spinning our dials, Mark.
Oh my God. It's like I got to get off this podcast. That's unbelievable.
Such
All right,
friendly.
for all our viewers around the world, and because I can check now, right, on our audio podcast, we have viewers all over the world, including South Africa, Australia, all these great places. For all of you viewers, we're talking about American baseball right now. So
There was a
I
little
think
game last week
there was a
called
game
the
called
World Series.
the World Series, although it's really only about America.
Right.
So,
We'll make
Yeah, we
football
presume.
references in the near future in cricket, I promise. But right now,
Yeah.
we're just doing American baseball.
Yeah,
All right. Hey, so
literally
speaking about our viewers,
Yeah.
we're gonna have our Stump the Chumps, so stick around. We got some great questions. We're getting a lot of great questions, by the way. So we're really gonna work hard to get them out there for you. If you don't hear yours tonight, it's coming. Stand by, or it's coming. But I thought I'd start tonight. We didn't have a question, but a comment that came in by email from William Sumners. And he's obviously one of our, incredible listeners who are always very well educated in World War II, right? Which is why you listen to us. He says, you probably know by now, CADAF is an acronym for Commander Amphibious Task Force. What do you think? Yeah?
I
Makes
have
total
no point
sense.
of reference, so
Yeah.
I'll agree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think it makes
That
sense.
was pretty good.
Yeah. We really appreciate that because we were wondering, and it makes total sense, and it very well could be.
And all the other competing theories we've had kind of fell apart, being as we didn't have any. So yeah, I'd say 0 to what he said. What he said.
All right. Thanks to William Sumners.
In that case, he's instructed the chumps, and so William,
Yes.
thank you.
There's a reason we
very
don't
grateful.
call it "Stump the Really Smart Guys."
Well, it certainly wouldn't be true in either
Yeah.
of our cases. I think probably in Mark's case it would be true, but not in ours. But yeah, so this episode we thought we'd just Kevin and I talk a little bit about some of the battlefield tours that we've been on. We spent a good bit of the fall actually overseas, and it's really kind of fascinating to meet some of the folks who come along on these tours. The places we go obviously are extremely relevant to our World War II theme, and we just kind of thought we'd walk you through that a little bit tonight, because I think I don't know there's some interesting nuggets to share and a little bit about what that's about, and of course I dare say a lot of people watching, listening, or either have been on some of these tours or are interested maybe going on these tours. We thought we'd give you a sense of what this is like, and I think it's fair to say we all recommend it very highly. It's just so much
I don't
fun.
think we've ever had a dissatisfied customer. These people have read and seen miniseries and movies, and we bring them to those locations and explain, what sometimes the fiction and the reality, and it just brings it alive. And I mean, John, I know you probably had it too, where people have said, "I've been waiting all my life to take this tour." You know, and so you give tours for the World War II Museum. I give tours for Stephen Ambrose Historical Tours, and they're kind of different the way we work them logistically and everything. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. Well, I mean, I'm giving one, so that would probably make it the best tour ever.
Actually, that makes it much worse. But
Well, I'm trying to be objective, but and normally, so I started off. When did we start giving tours? I think it was well, it's when you and I met each other, John. That would have been 2004,
Yeah.
and that was the 60th anniversary of D-Day. So I started off giving D-Day tours and then started doing Band of Brothers tours and then kind of created my own Patton tour because of all my research and my passion for that. But now I try to be a jack of all trades because we want to be flexible and it's nice to go someplace different. And so the Ambrose folks asked me to lead a Band of Brothers tour, which I haven't done since, like 2017 or 2007, 2010. I mean, and to lead this tour, so this was a 2-week tour, and we started in England, and we did things differently than what I remember because we've had his other historians do a great deal of research and talk to the veterans, and we know so much now more than what we knew. And so we brought everybody up to a pottery, and we're now able to say that is the house where Dick Winters stayed, and he was with Harry Welch in the house. We can take them to the laundry place where Malarkey picked up everybody's uniforms that had been killed in Normandy. There's a cemetery with a hill that Dick Winters used to sit and just kind of contemplate. And he said later, when in the Battle of the Bulge, when things were bad, he would mentally go to that bench in that cemetery with the beautiful view of the British countryside. And it's just such a much more in-depth tour. And so I actually learned quite a bit myself. I had a really good manager, David Otley, who had been doing a lot of Band of Brothers tours, so he knew the sort of updated version. Of course, we cross the channel. We do all the not just easy company places, but all the D-Day locations, the beaches, Pegasus Bridge that the British take with gliders, and I'm going to take a little break right here, John, because I realize we're being supported by somebody, and I want to encourage that.
We always like being supported, and we have to encourage that every time, don't we? No, actually,
Yep.
I wanted to just start our discussion by saying, I mean, I got to tell you about this. Speaking of our tours, because obviously we both have tours lined up in the future, and there's one that I want to tell you about specifically. So in May 2027, I'm going to be joining my friends from the National World War II Museum on a cruise from Bordeaux to Normandy in honor of the 83rd anniversary of D-Day. And the tour is called Courage on the Coast of France. And we'll be aboard the exclusively chartered Swan Hellenic Diana. It's this beautiful ship. It's a great itinerary. We're sailing along the western coast of France to ports like Lorient, Brest, Saint-Malo. I'm going to be joined by a pretty stellar lineup of authors and historians like James Holland, who, of course, is a very good buddy of ours.
Yep.
Saul David, I don't know if you know him, but he's just
I
an
know the
absolutely
name.
great guy. I was just with him on this tour, and we'll talk about that tonight. Mike Nyberg and Jonathan Boff. And James Matteo from Band of Brothers, speaking of Band of Brothers, is also going to be there. He played, Frank Perconti. He played Frank Perconti. He did that so well. James is a really good guy. And along the way, we're going to trace the really powerful story of World War II in Europe, centered around the epic D-Day landings. What more could you ask for? So traveling with the National World War II Museum offers just an unforgettable journey into the past, and you can learn more at nationalww2museum.org/travel. nationalww2museum.org/travel, and the 2 is the numeral 2, just like our World War II Live Gmail email address. So join me. It's going to be a blast.
John, I lead my tours, I do the best I can, and then you roll out this list of like A-listers, I feel like Luke Skywalker going against the Death Star, in that comparison. I'm like,
There again,
man, I don't
Lex
have a
Luthor
chance.
in one episode, the Death Star in another. I mean, my gosh, Kevin, we may have to go to counseling. You see me as this sinister figure. I mean, my goodness, I give and I give and I give. I try, but I mean,
John, why starting in Bordeaux? Or is that just where you guys dock?
there's going to be actually, I think, a pre-tour with Mike Nyberg, if I'm remembering
Okay.
correctly. And so yeah, Bordeaux is just this beautiful place, and it's so that is I think a lot of times where the ship cruises. So what's neat about that tour is that obviously we're going to deep dive into Normandy, but also Brittany, and I think Brittany kind of gets overlooked sometimes, and that is a very significant American battlefield in World War
Yep.
II. And it certainly has implications for Patton, as you know very well. So I don't know. I just think that's a really good design for that tour, and it's going to be a blast. So don't hesitate. Join us. It's going to be so much fun.
John, have you been to Lorient before?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Oh man, I I'm driving around there going, "Where's this U-boat pen thing?" And I'm like on the bay, and I look across. There's this gigantic structure, and you drive through it. You drive up to it, and I got out of my car and walked around. You can actually look into the U-boat pens and everything. And when I did this, now this was probably about 10 years ago, they had a French submarine like propped up, like they were either doing repairs or making it into a museum. And, it's like this gem that nobody knows about. So I'm going to be petty here and say that I am very jealous that you're going to some pretty cool places. Um, but I tell you
Well,
what,
I'm glad to talk to you from there.
let's talk about your tour. Let me to say a few more things about Band of Brothers, and I want to hear about
Yeah,
your
go ahead.
tour.
Yeah, I want to hear
Yeah,
more about your tour first. Actually,
yeah.
you
So
were on a long tour. It was pretty extensive.
2 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
2 weeks. And they do a pre-tour at Toccoa. And we didn't do that on this tour, which I was grateful for because I do have a full-time job. But we've done it before, and fortunately we drove up Currahee. I was thinking about running it, but we would do Currahee and then get on the airplane. I'm like, I ain't getting on an airplane after running 6 miles, without taking a shower. But anyway, so on this tour, we did Breakhorn Manor, the Dick Winters statue. You can't go wrong with the Utah Beach Museum. And then I really try to cover all the draws, at Omaha Beach. And when we take, and I love this part, John, and you know this too, when we take the ferry over across the channel, that's as close as you're going to get to sort of reenacting what happened in 44. And so it's always a nice, instead of flying, it's always nice to take the ferry. And this time we took the late ferry. We got into Keenaville. Was it Keenaville? No. Where do the British go in? I can't think of that
Weistram?
port.
You mean Weistram?
Weasterham, that's it, Weasterham. And we went to Pegasus Bridge at night. And so the visual isn't super awesome, but since it was a night attack, you really got the feeling for the battle. So, a couple days there, and then up to Holland. And we used to stay in Paris. Now we do the straight shot. And the bridges, we go to San, we go to the drop zone, and there's the people that have that house there at the Easy Company drop zone. They bring out their grandfather, who's in his late 80s, and he talks about being a little kid and seeing the paratroopers landing, and it's like he could have seen Dick Winters. I mean, this is where they all landed, So
Yeah.
that was really special. I hadn't seen that before. I'd been to the house and everything, so that was really cool. And then what's the big one? Oh, we go to the crossroads and take people down. And if you're dumb enough like me, we run the same run that Dick Winters made, at the crossroads, and explain that whole battle. And then Bastogne, obviously. And nowadays, it costs money to go into the Boisjacques,
Yeah.
where Easy Company first stayed. Now, in the olden days when we would give this tour, we take them into the Boisjacques, look at the foxholes that may or may not have been made by reenactors, and would look across to Foy and say, this is where they made the charge, and they had to replace the company commander and all this stuff. Well, some other historians did some great research and said, no, it wasn't from there. It was from the Bois Fazone, which is over to the left. And so we go into the Bois Fazone, and we actually found Dick Winters' foxhole there. We know where, roughly where Joe Toy and Bill Garnier lose their legs. So we take him there. And fortunately, I had interviewed Bill Garnier about his experience there. And so I was able to tell some stories. And then we walk the walk down into Foy that Easy Company charged. And you can see the actual buildings and the windows where the snipers and machine gun fire was causing so much havoc. So I really enjoyed that. That's something that we didn't do in the early days. We just did not know. And we're able to put people right there where it all happened. So that was super special. And then of course, to the church where the children sang. And there's a memorial there now because one time Garnier and Babe Heffron went back on one of the anniversaries, and these women, older women, came out and sang, and those were the same women that sang to Easy Company, in '45, I guess it would be. So just and then we went into Foy. Once we're in Foy, they've got sort of posters now where the tank, where a picture where the German tank was, the sniper that Shifty Powers takes out. It's so funny, John. That farm structure, whatever you want to call it, where that sniper is, I must have passed that thing 100 times on different tours, and then was doing research before this. I'm like, oh my god, that's the spot. And so you could show people where where Carwood Lipton ran across the street to draw fire, and then he took the guy out right in the center of the, right in the forehead. And then my favorite place, Noville, took him up there, and I like that not because the Easy Company taking it, but the 10th Armored fight with Task Force de Sobry or Desabry. Yep. And I had actually found an interview with him there in the location explaining the battle that really helped me when I wrote about it. From there, we go to Hagenau. We go to the famous, and that river is just a stream. Now, maybe it was a little deeper, at that time with a lot of snow melt, but people are very disappointed when they see it. And ages ago, I'm trying to think we had one of the machine gunners from Easy Company with us, Bill Wingett, and he recognized the place where he set up his machine gun in a window. So that was very cool. And then we end up really in Austria, where Easy Company has a very famous photograph taken of them, and because of the friggin' miniseries, we do this thing where we jump in the lake, and it's so cold. And it's probably not for smart people to do, but I've done it a number of times now. And I think we had about 5 guys who braved it and froze. And it was really funny because you jump into the lake and then you swim to a ramp and you come up the ramp. So we're all walking up just freezing. And these ducks kind of came up behind us. We're like, get out of our, turf. And I actually watched Band of Brothers when I got home. And then that scene when Dick Winters comes out of the water, there's ducks right there. I'm like, your grandkids were after us. So,
yeah.
Oh, and one of the last things we do, obviously, we go up to Hitler's Eagle's Nest. We go to where Hitler's house was. Of course, it's been leveled now, but you understand where the plate glass window was, and he had the great view. And then, never did this before, went up, to the Eagle's Nest itself, the tea room, and David Otley, my assistant, pulled out a battle of Bat 69 and gave shots to everybody. And I thought that was such a Band of Brothers thing to do. So that was a 2-week trip. I got a lot out of it because I learned new stuff, which we always want to do on tours. And everyone was just so amazed and grateful. John, I do D-Day tours, I do my Patton tours, but there's something about a Band of Brothers tour that is just, penetrates people. And it's like this, they saw the miniseries multiple times. It affected them, and they want to be a part of this thing so much now. And and I consider myself, an amateur in a lot of ways. But then I'm like, well, I did interview Dick Winters, and I helped him with his memoir. And, I've interviewed a number of those guys and wrote their stories. So I was like, I don't think I'm a total doppelganger. So, but I want to hear about your tour, John, because you're fresh back. When did you get back?
Yeah.
Like 2 days ago?
Yeah, I just got back a couple days ago, so it's pretty fresh. Yeah. So this is it was a World War II museum tour, and we run it, not quite every fall, but almost. And it's had different titles. It used to be called Normandy Seine, and now it's at least the part that I did is called Paris de Pointe du Hoc. So basically, the concept is you spend part of the tour on a boat, a Uniworld boat called the Joie de Vivre, and it sails down the Seine. So you do some day trips from there, and then you spend part of the tour staying in Normandy at beautiful chateaus, by the way. One group stays at the Audrieu, which actually had some pretty intense history happen on the grounds there. Some of the Canadian soldiers were executed by the 12th SS Panzer Division there.
Is that famous?
No, it's not Abbey Dardenne. It's not Abbey Dardenne, but it's not
Okay.
that far from there. And then the other chateau is called the Chenevier, and it's kind of inland from Port-en-Bazin, which of course, by point of reference for folks out there, it's like just east of Omaha Beach. So anyway, when you're in Normandy, you go to a lot of the same spots you were just talking about. So in this case, see what they do is they have featured historians, so they pair them up, and then they have one group that's on the boat one time, and then at one point, and then the other group is in Normandy, and then you switch. So it's several hundred people, and it's several busloads of people just in these two different groups. So I was originally paired with James Holland, with our buddy James Holland. Unfortunately, then he had a family tragedy. His mother-in-law
Oh, that's
died.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so Sarah Kirksey, who's just the crackerjack director of educational travel at the World War II Museum. I mean, she's brilliant and just makes these things go like it's just incredible. She was able to scramble pretty quickly and then get Alex Ritchie to stand in for a couple of 3 nights to replace Jim, and then Saul David, who I just mentioned is going to be on our cruise in 2027. So
Those are pretty good last minute replacements, I gotta say, John.
they really are, exactly. And so
Yeah.
at the other end, like the other group that was in the chateaus while we were aboard the boat, it was Mike Nyberg, who's just such a great guy, and
Yep.
such a tremendous scholar, and Jonathan Boff, who also is just tremendous. So the only bummer is you don't really get to see the other historians too much, or not Jonathan Boff. I'm sorry, it was Will Hitchcock from UVA. Jonathan Boff is next year. So anyway, the part on the Seine, you do some day trips, as I mentioned. One is to Versailles, which isn't necessarily my ultimate favorite place, but it's some obviously there's a lot of history there, something to see. La Roche-Guyon, which was Rommel's headquarters, of course, just
That's
a pretty
beautiful.
interesting place. Dieppe, it's absolutely fascinating to go to Dieppe and see it from every angle, walk that beach. And then, of course, in Normandy, some of the same spots you just went to. So both of us have been to Brecourt then in these last, month and a half or whatever it is. And
But you saw Mr. de Valaville, the owner, who,
yeah,
his
exactly.
father was there in 1944. That's pretty impressive.
And his grandfather too. And his father, of course, got accidentally shot by the Americans, and then the Americans helped, nurse him back to health. He helps found the Utah Beach Museum that you mentioned earlier, which is just a tremendous, tremendous resource. You could spend hours and hours in there. The Airborne Museum, of course, in San Mariglis. The whole John Steele story, which I'm very skeptical of, and I know our buddy Marty Morgan is too. I think probably some good reasons. Lafayette, which is my favorite place, and I just love going there. So I went there over a couple different days, and of course one day at Pointe du Hoc and Omaha Beach, which is just so fascinating. So I got the chance actually to stand at the Big Red One monument, the marker there, and we gathered everybody on the whole
The
tour
obelisk?
together. Yeah, the obelisk, exactly,
Yeah.
and it's right there. At the top point of WN62, which is one of the main fortified resistance nests that covered one of the main draws at Omaha Beach, and that's where some of the worst slaughter happened on D-Day. And so we got the whole group together, 170 people, whatever, and I just kind of gave them an overview, a little bit of an overview, but talked about some of the personalities, some of the people you see listed on the obelisk there, the marker. It's really poignant. So. It was, you know how it is. It's these days are intense, but they're a heck of a lot of fun. In our case, we had a lot of local battlefield historians who were just outstanding. Adrian Ricora, we had Pierre Samuel Natanson. We had a couple of other younger people too who were just crackerjack, and so. That is a really nice mix of skill sets, and like with you, the cool thing was how into it people were. Just nice people.
Definitely an appreciative crowd.
It is, isn't that fun? Like it's just nice people, and they're there for the right reasons, and they want to know more. It's I a lot of times I joke it's like taking my best students, adding 40 years or something, and then and there they are. I mean it's kind of like that.
You know what I like, John, because I don't teach, is I feel like, I squirrel myself off and do all this research and writing and everything. and then I get to go to these places with a group of people that appreciate what I do, and it's like, oh, thank you. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, it really
And
is. And it,
one
yeah,
last one last question, John. This tour that you led, the whole time, are you guys staying on a boat? Like, is that your hotel?
for part of it, yeah. When like the Seine part, WWII is a beautiful boat. So think of like luxury accommodations, and you're staying there.
Right.
Great meals at night, all you want to drink. I mean, that kind of thing. It's just it,
No,
and
no,
you're.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I mean, it's awful. It's such a hardship, and you're cruising down the Seine, so it's really interesting the scenery. And then for the other half of it, you're at either the Genevieve or the Ardrieux, sorry. And in my case, I flipped back and forth so that I gave a couple of lectures about the Big Red One at Omaha Beach, and so I gave one to one group one night and another to another group the next night. So I moved around a little bit from the boat to the various chateaus, but I mean, it's just amazing. So. Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's we're lucky to get to do this. So yeah, to put a bow on this discussion, I mean, I think we've just kind of scratched the surface of some of the stuff we do, but I think that at least gives people maybe a sense of what these tours are, don't you think? Like
Yep.
yeah, that's sort of the structure of it, the tendency of it. Yeah,
And I hope for our
yeah,
conversation is going to lead to more Stump the Chump questions from everything we just talked about. Now,
I think it will.
speaking of that,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just thinking, like I said at the top of the show, I wonder if people would be so interested if we said, stump the really smart guys about who know everything about World War II. I think it's more confessional that we call it Stump the Chumps.
oh, it is because we know what chumps we truly are.
We know how much we don't know. Um,
And
but
yet these tours are like that, aren't they? Like there's
yes.
like these little esoteric questions like, well, I don't know,
Well, that's how we came up with Stump the Chumps, because you and I were on a tour bus together and people just started asking us random questions. And it was
Yep.
so much fun for everybody that they separated us and didn't let us play together anymore on
I
the
know.
tour.
Kevin and I are still kind of browned off about that. It was really such a bummer to be
People were
separated.
leaving the other buses to get onto our bus, and they're like, we can't have that. I'm like, well, get mad at the other historians. Don't punish us.
So Kevin, this is sort of our therapy to get
Yes,
to deal with that and get back at
the
it. We
whole
do.
podcast is revenge for that one day.
It is.
in 2004. So, John, just want to say, we're being sponsored. Stump the Chumps is being sponsored by WarfareHistoryNetwork.com. This is the ultimate World War II website founded by Carl Nam and WW2 History Magazine. And the website has all the articles in the past that the magazine has run. Their features, weapons, personalities, battles. It's really the place to go. And so if you're interested, of course, visit www.warfarehistorynetwork.com. You can find all the WW2 history articles over the last 25 years and other wars because they run Military Heritage Magazine, so Civil War, other wars like that. And if you want to begin a digital subscription, you can access all the articles on their website, or you can sign up to receive a subscription to the print edition, which, by the way, has one of my articles in it right now. And as Carl Nam likes to say, warfarehistorynetwork.com, we take you to the front lines. And on that note, Mark, we're ready to be chumps.
All right, my two favorite chumps. Here we
Woohoo!
go.
So I'll answer the first question. Kadaf comes from. Oh, wait, never mind.
Allied Task Force.
All right, so tonight on Stump the Chumps, I thought we would do a little what if game because we had a bunch of questions that are kind of what ifs,
Okay.
and I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of World War II, Civil War, and I always hear the historians saying, we don't want to deal in counterfactuals. Well, I'm sorry to say our audience wants to deal in counterfactuals.
What if
so,
Lucian Truscott was 2 inches taller?
yeah. Hey, I thought you didn't know the questions, Kevin. What's going on? All right. So we got a little bit of that going on.
All right.
So we're gonna do that tonight. So we're gonna start with Jim Steele, and Jim Steele doesn't say where he's from, but Jim Steele, he says, "Dear Kevin and John, Hey, he mentioned you first, Kevin. So he's a
Hey!
good friend. There you go.
Best question ever.
Yeah. This
He's
is
got
more of a
problems.
what if style question, which I know historians love, right?
Okay. Kevin
You are
and what's
plan-
his
you're
name?
you're planning an operation and you need 100% accurate intelligence about your enemy's capabilities. Who would you trust more as your intelligence officer? Bepo Schmidt or Alan Pinkerton? Apologies for the Civil War curveball. Thank you.
Well, obviously, I have to go with John McManus because it sounds like a really dangerous mission, and he might not come back. Whew. I guess I would have to go to Alan Pinkerton just because I know him more. Now, Pinkerton did make one little mistake during the Civil War. Let's not judge him. The rest of the play was really good. But yes, a lot of people lay it at his feet that he allowed Lincoln to be assassinated. But he basically starts, I want to say he starts the Secret Service, which is both an anti-counterfeiting ring and a protection of the president and then high executives beyond that. So I would have to go with Pinkerton just for, God, I wanted 100%. Well, first of all, you're never going to get 100% accuracy on what the enemy's doing, no matter how good the guy you're sending out to gather information is. But just because I know more about Pinkerton, John, I struggle through that. You got to give a brilliant answer now, okay?
Oh, you're going to be disappointed then, because this isn't going to be brilliant. I mean,
Please don't use my name first anymore on these.
that was sort of a bad harbinger, wasn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think highly of Pinkerton. Pinkerton. I mean, come on. I don't know how much he got right in the Civil War. He kind of told McClellan what he wanted to hear. Oh, there's loads of Confederates out there. Keep paying me.
True.
I don't
But
know.
what about
I
Debo
don't,
Samuels, or what's the other guy's name?
Bepo Schmidt.
Yeah, I don't know anything about
He was the Luftwaffe intelligence officer, right? The Battle of Britain.
Oh.
And he was, we're shooting them down in droves, we're winning.
Yeah, go with him, John.
Terrible.
he's a lot like Pinkerton in that regard, just not getting paid as much, I guess. But
Yeah.
I think I give Schmidt, even though he's not good. But Pinkerton, to me, is just not, not what we would associate with a military professional. I mean, I just don't think highly of Pinkerton and his whole operation. I think they're pretty amateurish. I think by our standards, I suppose.
Yeah.
Schmidt is kind of telling his superiors what they want to hear, and I mean, we could look at a lot of staff officers who do that over the years, and
That was a
I
problem
can
in
think of
Vietnam, big time.
another intel officer who does a wonderful job of that, Charles Willoughby, who works for MacArthur as his intel officer through World War II and Korea, and there's a tendency for Willoughby to do that. So Schmidt, of course, he's going to have something in the same approach, but I don't think highly of either of them. But I guess that's the point of the question.
Yeah.
I'd choose
Since we're hitting this topic, I'll just add that Oscar Koch, Patton's intel guy, gets way more credit than he deserves because he was part of that whole myth about predicting the German attack, the Battle of the Bulge. And they're getting all the information really from Ultra, reading German intercepts, but they can't say it. So he's like, oh, my guy, Oscar Koch, he's on the ball. He knows it all. And people tend to fall in line with that. So I think his reputation was quite bloated for what a very competent guy, but just, they heaped a lot on him to keep Ultra secret. So, but I'm going to stick with my first answer, John McManus. I trust him, and it sounds like a dangerous mission that I don't want to do. So, John, shall I, as I call him, Kamikaze John.
So
That's me.
Let me ask this. Right? Just about in Second World War intelligence, right? We know the Allies had broken several Japanese codes to various degrees, right? Couldn't
Right.
read the whole thing, but
Yep.
and then the Japanese codes they would change them and we'd learn them again. Same thing, I believe, with the U-boats.
Yeah, because you needed to
Same
keep
kind of
getting the
thing.
code books.
We were getting
Yeah.
the code books.
Yeah.
What about the Axis? I mean, were they ever breaking our codes, or I mean, it was really just the Allies had a huge superiority in intelligence.
Now they're breaking our
So-
codes too.
Yeah. Especially early on because we're not very good with that stuff. And just one example from one of my books, Patton, that time when he's in the Mediterranean and he's kind of, the Battle of Sicily is over, and Marshall's kind of sending him around to different locations, kind of keep the Germans guessing. He gets up early and leaves an hour early to like Cairo or maybe Malta, and he's on the ground getting in a car, and he sees a German plane flying over, which would have been exactly in the sky when he was supposed to have been landing. And when he gets notification to go to England, German radio says, "Hey, that pesky Patton is heading up to England on the," and they mention the ship, the USS Parker, the SS Parker, and it's like, we got it, we got you targeted. You know, I was like, oh my God. I mean, they knew some stuff that was going on and they plied it.
Yeah, well, I think another prime example is Bonner Fellers, who is, I think, this is before the U.S. actually in the war, but also after. So he is, I think, the American military liaison in theater for in North Africa, and so he's sending his communications back to his superiors, and the Germans have basically cracked our code, and they're reading everything that he says. And so, like, we've talked about Rommel on this show a lot, and we've certainly, none of us are big, fans of Rommel's supposed greatness or whatever. Well, that's the other thing, is that he's got a lot of this intel that Bonner Fellers is basically serving them up on a plate, and so the Axis absolutely know a lot about the Allied order of battle, Allied intentions, Allied plans, and to a great extent for Bonner, because of Bonner Fellers. And it's I mean, it's a little bit of a boo boo there, of course, and but he actually ends up on MacArthur's staff too, in a different capacity, not an intel officer.
He sounds like a real Pinkerton.
I think so. All right, well, good one. That was a rough question, but you guys,
Powered through.
you did something. Yeah,
We
Good,
survived.
it was a good pivot there at the end, John. I said, it was a
But
good
you guys
pivot.
both used words to answer him.
Yeah, use words. Use your words. Use your words.
Use your word.
All right. So, speaking of Rommel, John Lonsberg, he writes, "My only comment is that if Rommel had reached Egypt as he had hoped and captured the Suez Canal, that would have been massively strategic and negatively impacted the Allies' shipping routes and supply chains." So this goes back to, I think, episode 1, where we were talking about, Rommel's decision after the fall of Tobruk to head off to El Alamein, and
Right.
we were saying that if they had paused and taken Malta, that might have been actually a better solution. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what if he had actually captured the Suez Canal?
Oh, yeah, if he'd captured the Suez Canal, that would have definitely been a difference maker. You're right. You severed one of the main arteries of the British Empire. And, I mean, there's no question. To me, that's the totality of what makes Egypt valuable at all, is the possibility of the Suez Canal. And much less, too, neutralizing Royal Navy bases there, too. And that would matter a lot. Of course, too, I mean, if you could keep going on, and you could go on to get Middle East oil, I mean, that's an even bigger difference maker. The question, of course, would always be how you would refine it and get it back to Germany and get it into play and all that. Presumably, they solved maybe some of those issues. But the Suez Canal, of course, is a prime objective. But it does come down to, like, what makes you capable of getting the Suez Canal and keeping it. Neutralizing Malta probably, well, it could do that for you, quite possibly, because it's going to open up your sea lanes in the Mediterranean, your air corridors that much more, and it's going to allow you to supply and sustain yourself and thus be stronger and perhaps press on beyond the Suez Canal.
Right.
And something else to consider too, if they take the Suez, all the British ships got to go around Africa to get to India. I mean, it's just such a change in logistics, and just such a, I mean, they're basically, they're on a shoestring as it is. And speaking of shoestrings, Rommel's kind of on one too, and I almost feel like that's kind of pie in the sky. Yes, that was his objective, but I mean, he barely gets to El Alamein, and he gets stopped before Montgomery even takes command, pretty effectively. I guess it was Auchinleck who stops him. So like, you always got to remember logistics, and like we always love to think like, well, our army's just going to go in and blow everything away. No, you got to have fuel and food and weapons, and it's work, and you've got a enemy that's fighting to prevent that. So for all the fighting I've read about, I've never seen any theories that, well, if Rommel had just done X, Y, and Z, he could have easily gone in. Now, of course, the British are terrified that he's going to be able to achieve that. But, like John said, too, like if they get the oil, do they have the facilities, the shipping, and all the stuff they need to refine it and get it, to where it needs to go? Malta, at one point the Germans are bombing it like, what, 2 and 3 times a day, if not more?
Yeah,
But and it had me thinking about the effectiveness of bombing campaigns, because again, the Germans don't have heavy bombers. They've got 2 engines where we've got the 4-engine bombers. And I guess it's Eisenhower that picks that small little island off of Sicily, Paterno or whatever it is, and bombs it for like a month.
Pantelleria, however you say it.
Yeah, and they kind of just walk in after that. I think it was Canadian troops that took it. And I don't know, the idea of just bombing something without sending in ground troops, it just doesn't sound like feasible. And to think how many bombs the Germans dropped on Malta, and yet they're still getting a few planes up, they're still surviving. There's just so many variables in there that just don't work. And we just and I think that Crete, the German airborne got such a bloody nose there that Hitler's very gun shy. Now he does do airborne operation. Everybody says that he never does another airborne operation ever Crete. That's not true. But they use airborne troops everywhere. But I think the Crete experience kind of made the Germans gun shy to parachute into islands, where they just didn't have enough navy to do it, and they'd have to rely on the Luftwaffe. So I think part of that, yes, if he had been able to capture that, that would have been a huge victory logistically and everything. But I've just never seen evidence that he had the logistics to make it there.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. And I think really to have any chance of having it pay off in the long run, they had to hold Malta and the Suez Canal simultaneously. Yep. And one thing I would point out, right, is that the Germans did capture oil fields in the Caucasus pre-Stalingrad, and they couldn't make anything of it. There was no way they were going to, like you said, get that oil.
Yeah. And
another example is the Japanese, and this is a bigger example. They captured the oil fields in Borneo, the Dutch East Indies, right?
Yep.
And that presumably was one of the reasons they go to war, right? We got to get these resources because we're being starved of them.
Right.
But once they took the oil fields, and this is a great John Parshall thing if he ever makes it over here, right? They didn't actually have a plan to get the oil to Japan.
Yep.
And so that's why they did crazy things like put unrefined oil in their aircraft carriers, because they could turn into floating bombs and blow themselves up, right? So even when an Axis power got their hands on it, they couldn't do anything with it. So
I think that's all very great example of when a country starts a war, they think they know what their objective and what they're doing is, and a war just gets away from you. Those who start wars end up very much regretting them. Because there's just so much more dimension, and you're trying to control too much, and there's other countries come in. There are too many variables. So yeah, nice plan though.
Okay, all right. Another Rommel question. I think we'll probably get more as we go on, but
I wouldn't doubt it.
I wouldn't doubt it. I love
Rommel
talking
who?
about Rommel. All right, well, here's another question. Now, this one, guys, I have your back in case
Oh God! Is this about the Platte River?
It is not the North Platte. Hey! No talk bad about the North Platte Campaign. We love them, especially the PBSers. Okay. Is the movie Murder Company really true? Enjoy the podcast, David, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Now, have you guys even seen Murder Company?
No, I'm not familiar with it. There was a book with a similar name, but it was about a unit in Iraq. John, you? What do you know?
I have not seen that movie.
Okay, so it's I did a little looking up on it so that we're not flat-footed here. It's a 2024 movie.
I was busy that year.
According to the description, it's fiction,
Okay.
and it's a bunch of paratroopers dropped into Normandy, but their mission, right, is to get this particular French resistance fighter and escort him on a mission to kill a German general. So I thought,
It had nothing to do with zombies, right?
it does not. So
Okay.
it said that it was fiction, so it's not true, David. But I thought it'd be interesting um, to
Guess
talk.
what we have to watch now, John?
Well, there's other movies, right? Eagles Land, where Eagles Dare, and all these. Where
Dirty
they try to
Dozen.
kill Dirty Dozen. Like, there's a whole genre of this, like
Sure.
servicemen going.
They're
in to
they're
kill
fiction,
people
but they're
to-
fun to watch. Kelly's Heroes, big
Kelly's
one.
Heroes.
Yeah.
Were there any some actual kind of things like this that you guys know of?
To my knowledge, there were not.
No.
Evan, what do you think?
They got to get a French resistance guy to kill a German general.
Well, I mean, just assassination attempts by the
Yeah.
Allies. I know there was like the British trained like a Polish sniper at one point to hide, like in the Obo Salzburg, to try to pick off Hitler. You've heard of that one? That was a real thing,
I was at Heydrich. That's probably the most famous case
right?
where agents, throw the grenade. And I think at one point they thought there was poison on the grenade, but they realized it was just, the shrapnel that killed him.
That was a Czech. That was a Czech.
Yeah, those were Czech.
Commando.
Okay,
Yeah.
but nothing where like ground troops coordinate with resistance members for something that complex. That's something handled by the SAS, by the British spy system, things like that. Really, not every time with conventional troops, it's like the partisans helped capture a bridge. Thank you. Nothing
Right.
on that level. And for all the good the French resistance and all those resistance units do, they're very poorly armed. The Germans are looking for them at all times. I don't think they have the communications and weaponry to pull off something like that, and that's why it's a global, conventional war.
And but of course it does happen, but in the course of event and happenstance. I mean, a couple of paratroopers kill General William Falley, one of the key German commanders in Cotentin, just inland from Utah Beach, and obviously that plays a role in the victory that the two airborne divisions are going to have there. But that is not, a planned operation to go and assassinate him. It's, here's the guy's
Hey, look
command
what we
car,
did.
and we shoot up the command car, and we happen to kill him. I mean,
Yep.
that's what happens in that circumstance.
I think the same thing happens in, I think, Arnhem, right? There was a German general that ran into some of the paras early on. And
Yep.
his staff
It's a
guard
very
gets
famous
shot up.
photo of him outside the car, and his legs are bent in a very
Yeah.
disturbing way. Yeah.
And what about the thing that I've heard about, which was the Allies didn't want to assassinate Hitler because towards the end of the war they felt like he was doing Germany more harm than good. Is there any truth to that? Or
No,
is that
that's the
just
plot of Dirty Dozen 2, I believe. No, in reality, the German troops, especially the SS, they don't swear allegiance to Nazi Germany or Germany. They swear allegiance to Hitler. So when he does commit suicide in the bunker in late April, a lot of people throw down their arms and they're like, "Hey, we vowed to this guy and he went and offed himself. We don't." And nobody, from a lot of the accounts I read, they didn't believe he was out fighting with his last breath against Bolshevism. They knew, like, the guy offed himself in a bunker. Here we've dedicated our lives to this guy, and he took the easy way out, and we got to deal with the hard peace. And there were more surrenders, I think, from Hitler's suicide than any day or day before or after until the armistice.
All right. Well, guys, there you have it. Some good questions.
Those are all the questions. No more.
Do you go on our report card?
Yeah, I'll send it to your mom.
This is going to go down on your permanent record, I believe, is the line from the song.
Very
All right.
John-
So
daunting.
I was just gonna say what you've been doing.
All right. Well, John gets his mic fixed. I'm going to tell you what I've been up to. So, I did the tours of, I did the Band of Brothers tour, and then I spent a week by myself traveling across Germany and into Austria to research Volume 3. But then I got home and then flew down to San Antonio because I was asked to give a couple of talks at the 65th Infantry Division uh, Association reunion. Now, the 65th is a unit that comes in late in the war, March of 1945. They're going to fight exclusively under Patton. They're going to help take, I think, in the town of Braunau, which is the birthplace of Adolf Hitler. And the commander of the division, General Reinhardt, had actually fought in the Pacific at Guadalcanal. He was an artilleryman. And so an experienced combat veteran knows how to fight. So he comes to Europe with the 65th and leads them. But there was about, I guess, 80 people. This was in San Antonio. And they were just the nicest people. They were, the right audience for someone like me because, they all had relatives that were in the war. No veterans came to the reunion. These were all the children of veterans. And they gave presentations, too, that were pretty impressive. One guy gave a talk. I think we've all heard of Camp Lucky Strike, where all the GIs, when they left Europe, you were processed through one of these different camps named for a cigarette brand. And Lucky Strike may have been the most famous. Well, the 65th Infantry Division came into Lucky Strike the other way when they came into Europe. So it was interesting to hear about Lucky Strike when it was just getting started. Everything was coated in mud, and they're supposed to relax before they get to the front. Another person gave a paper on his father or his uncle that was killed in a plane crash. And then a woman gave a fascinating talk about her father, who was a Ritchie boy, which she never knew until she saw the 60 Minutes episode of the Ritchie Boys, and everything clicked in her head, the tiny little crumbs of clues her father gave her. So that was really cool. And we went to some great restaurants. I used to live in San Antonio, so I was a little familiar with the turf. But the highlight for me of this whole thing was the last night we went out to a barbecue place for dinner. And as we were finishing up, this guy at another table is getting up, and he turns and looks at me and he says, "Oh, how are you doing tonight?" And I look at him, I'm like, "Fonzie?" It was Henry Winkler. And so we got up and shook hands, and I told him I was a huge fan of his, not just for his acting, but for his advocacy for dyslexia, because he's a very dyslexic person. And I have a little bit I wrestle with it myself, and it was like, I didn't go up to him, go, "Oh my God, you're the Fonz." Like, he looked at me and talked to me first. I'm really proud of that. And some of the folks took pictures, and when it was all over, they asked to do selfies with him. And he said, "If I do that, everyone in the restaurant's going to want one." I mean, this guy, maybe to our younger listeners don't know who he is, but he was the coolest guy in the 1970s, not in the United States, around the globe. And
Yep.
they did an episode where he got a library card, and the amount of people getting library cards around the nation just soared. He was so influential and such an idol to so many people. It was so exciting to meet him. It was just a great, and I don't want to take away from the 65th Infantry Division Association. Those people were fantastic, but what an unexpected pleasure to tell you why you should get out and go do things and not always sit in your room reading and writing. What about you, John? What?
Yeah, I mean, what could be better than meeting Henry Winkler? But I'd say maybe he was looking at you because he's a fan.
John.
Maybe he's a fan of World War II Live. I mean, maybe that's.
Well, why do you think I gave him the shout out? He's probably going to send the next question to Stump the Chumps.
I hope so. Well, I hope so. He's a very educated guy too. So I mean, that's pretty neat. That's a pretty neat deal. Yeah. So in my case, of course, as I mentioned, just got back from the Paris to Pointe du Hoc tour, which was just an absolute blast. We had just such a great group of people who were so into it all. Of course, there's always people who have family ties to the topic, and that's very poignant, of course. We had one guy in the tour whose father landed at Utah Beach, among the initial waves, which was very cool. But I'm going to be going in a couple days to Richmond, Virginia, to the America's History LLC World War II conference, and it should be a pretty neat deal. Bruce Venter is the mastermind behind all this. He and his wife Lynn Venter basically put this conference together every year, and they usually have about 8 to 10 historians giving talks, and they have an historian in residence. I don't know if you know Ed Langle, who's just an absolute great guy. Ed is he used to be a like a research professor at University of Virginia. He's published, gosh, I mean, I've lost track, a million books. What's really impressive about Ed is kind of unlike you and me. He does all eras.
Handsome?
Well, I mean, in my case, I'm like that, but not you. But I mean, Ed does like all eras from Revolutionary War forward.
Oh
and
man, he's
backwards and
hardcore.
forward. He's really
Yeah.
amazing. So, anyway, it's a fun deal, to sit down and it reminds me too, like, again, of these trips we take, because it's a lot of the same kinds of folks who are just really, really into World War II and have great questions, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun.
John, I got to ask you, during the tour, what was the best meal you had over there?
The best meals I would say were aboard the WWII, when we were cruising the Seine. I mean, it's hard to single out one, but I would pretty much say every dinner each night was borderline spectacular. You had like 4 different menu choices for each stage, each course. I mean,
Right.
look at me. You could see, how much I've been eating, I guess. I mean, it's just like
You've been
big
starving
belly.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel badly even saying all this, because I know some people aren't, always, not able to get enough to eat. But in this case, we were just really fortunate. And so I would say anything aboard that ship was just spectacular. And that
Yeah,
adds to the experience.
nobody gets skinny on tours.
No, they don't. Although they're physical though in a way, because we do a lot of walking and a lot of hiking, and some of it is uneven ground and all that. You have to be. We should mention that to come on these tours, you have to have some level of mobility. There are
Yep.
different degrees of excursions, of course, for various folks, and that's good. But yeah, I mean, it's a I would say it's a pretty physical thing too, in terms of the excursions, and I like that, because it's a good kind of tired at the end of the day,
Yep.
so well.
A lot
I
of
mean,
walking.
a lot of walking, physical and mental fatigue.
Yeah.
But yeah,
When you're talking to a crowd all day, yeah, that it's good to have some quiet time.
yeah,
It's funny. We flew into Heathrow for the Band of Brothers tour, and they put us up in a hotel, and I met David Otley, my assistant. He's British. He's from oh shoot, he's gonna kill me if I get this wrong. Birmingham, England.
okay.
And I went for a walk and saw a little, fish and chips place. And so we got back to the hotel. I got back to the hotel. I said, let's do dinner. And he goes, any ideas? I said, well, I saw a fish and chips place. And so we walked down to it, and it was so good. And he turns to me and he says, this is the best fish and chips I've ever had. And I'm like, dude, you're British. You got to be kidding me. And he said, no, because so many people overcook it. They want it to be super crispy. This guy didn't do it. I wish I could remember the name of the place, but we did that 2 nights in a row.
If it's that good, you got to go back while you're there, because you're going to be moving on. Exactly. So
Yeah.
anyway, we really appreciate all the questions we've gotten, of course, for Stump the Chump. The email address is, of course, worldwar2live@gmail.com, worldwar2live@gmail.com, and of course that's with our Arabic numeral 2. I want to remind everybody, excuse me, I want to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, share. It's so wonderful. We've gotten great news that we're over 1,000 subscribers now, and that's obviously a major barometer we wanted to meet, but we want to go beyond that, and we will.
Yeah, I want us to get to 2 billion, and then I'll be happy.
I totally see that happening, and we're on the way. And no, I mean, it's just steadily building. The main thing is we just keep hearing from you, and we really,
Yeah.
really enjoy that. So again, like, subscribe, share, give us comments, send us questions for Stump the Chumps. As you see, we can be stumped fairly easily, I think, and I mean, give us comments on YouTube and wherever else you want to do that. I mean, hopefully not too mean comments. I mean, we'll just have that little request. Yeah, I'll say ahead of time. We know we're chumps, so you don't have to tell
Yep.
us. But we're all World War II nerds, and we're all in this thing together, I guess. So, absolutely a lot of fun. We love hearing from you. Is the upshot of it. All right. Well, we put a
Dang
bow
right.
on yet another one, haven't we?
Yes, we have. And I've really had a lot of fun here. Not
Yeah.
like all the other episodes. This one I had fun.
This one you actually had fun for the first time. Yeah, I could tell. The other episodes you really seem melancholy,
I'm
and
so surly in all those other episodes.
you really are surly. You got to work on that. I know.
Yep.
And you got to be friendlier, I think. It's
Sorry. The bitterness comes out.
such vitriol, Kevin. Such vitriol. Well, thanks one and all. Thanks, Mark. Absolutely for everything, and thanks for listening, watching, whatever applies. We love having you. So, thanks so much, and Roger out.